ever hear? You ever notice that the information that we're being fed doesn't always add up to the truth? Do you ever look out your window at night when the rain's falling down? You ever look down the street and wonder what is going on around you? You ever look out at night and ask yourself, is this all that I am? Where am I? What am I? Is this all there is? Is this real life? As technology continues to bring us closer together, it also tears us further apart. We watch the skies and look at the planet around us and its natural beauty as it continues to march forward on and on and on, unending, unceasing, unwavering. And yet our world, everything that we've built, crumbles around us. We wonder, is this it? Is there more? There's gotta be. We can search. We want to learn. We want to understand. We want to see all that we can see, know all that we can know. We want to look out there. We want to peek behind the veil. We want to ask the questions that nobody will answer. We want to light those fires, the sparks that ignite a curiosity in us. And we ask ourselves, what is out beyond all of that? Beyond the edge of reality. Good evening, everybody. It's Kaiser. It is time once again for the edge of reality. Yes, it is that time. It's time to get a little spooky, but we've kind of ditched the Halloween aesthetic and going back to our just good old fashioned creepy classic. Change up my brightness settings there. All right. So we'll definitely be getting Christmas decorations here soon, but hey, don't want to decorate too early. Cool Gamer, what's going on? Good to see you there, Cool Gamer. Murph's Turf, heyo. I love it. Awesome. Good to see you, Murph. And Mrs. K. Griff. Hey, friends. Good to see all of y'all there. Glad y'all are hanging with me tonight. I know that this is not our usual night to do Edge of Reality. So yesterday, for anybody who may not have caught it, there was a bunch of news breaking in the entertainment industry. We had new projections for the the flop that is Captain Marvel. We had the end of the SAG-AFTRA strike, and we had the Disney earnings call, all literally happening within like a couple of hours of each other. So yesterday ended up being a wild night, and it was one of those where we kind of had to pivot to Real Talk Live for Thursday night, or for Wednesday night instead of Thursday. And so I just decided to go ahead and push the usual Wednesday show to Thursday, and we would just go with it. So yeah, I do apologize about not getting information about this stream out sooner. It's been kind of a hectic last few days, but hey, trying to get things rolling and trying to work and manage other stuff at the same time. It is what it is. But hey, we're here now and we're live, so let's get to it. All right, folks. So I am gonna grab a couple of things here first of all. But one thing I did want to also drop in there is I wanted to drop a poll in the chat. And I'm going to throw out some ideas for some upcoming streams. So, that's just something I wanted to kind of look into there. Because I've got some ideas, but I'll be completely honest. Sometimes trying to come up with these live streams is a bit of on the seat of my pants. I feel like the quality dips a little bit. So I think what I'm going to start doing is trying to kind of ask y'all what sounds like good ideas for shows and everything like that, like usually about the week before. So I think that's what we're going to do pretty much starting, going forward. So I'm going to throw some ideas in the chat. So if you all would make sure before the end of tonight, please definitely cast your vote, and we will kind of make our decisions based on that. All right, so what does everyone want to see for next week's EOR? And let me see. And chat, if y'all got any that you want to throw out there in the next minute or two, I've got a whole list of here, but you know what? Feel free to throw some out there if you have any that you want to see out there. Let's see. There we go. Add option. All right. And throw in one more in there. Oh, I've got so many in here. It's hard to pick just one. Ancient impact. There we go. Well, there, that works. Throw that out there in the chat. Bam. There we go. All right. So next week's Edge Reality, if everybody wants to go ahead and make sure to vote on that poll there. We got options for next week's show. We've got Dyatlov Pass, Tunguska, government time travel experiments, and the missing 411. So definitely go down in there and cast your vote. I will probably put the same out on our, as a community post as well, and we'll kind of go from that point on. All right. So tonight's story is definitely kind of an interesting one. And honestly, I have to confess that this one has really kind of confused me. Hey, what's up, Shade Chaser over there on Rumble? Forgetting Rumble Ghetto. No, I'm not forgetting Rumble. Yeah, I do see you over there, Shade. It's cool. I got you. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Miss Kaker says, not gonna lie, I don't know what the first two are, so I chose one of those. Okay, well, Tunguska is a good one because that's probably one of my favorite interesting ones. I'll be completely honest. Let's see. She said, I don't really know about the bottom two either, but at least I've heard of them. Okay. Oh, trust me, I could start throwing out some names of like Operation Montauk and Looking Glass, a whole bunch of wild stuff like that. Yeah, I can start throwing out names that probably make most folks go like, wait, what? All right. Anyway, And always, if you have a story or a mystery that you want me to cover or want me to look into, always feel free to go and, you can always email me. You could always send me a message through YouTube, Discord, or through Twitter. My Twitter handle is right down there. And you can just let me know which is like if you have a particular one that you want me to look into. I've got tons, and there's so many out there that it's hard to really pick just one. All right. So we got that going for us there. And that will be up while everybody files in. Okay. So, folks, tonight we are talking about one of the most interesting and wild sightings in really is ever, but let alone the 20th century. And I'll be completely honest with you, this one is baffling because there are so many people with like these varying theories that have all said, "Oh, well, this one's completely debunked." But despite that, I have trouble believing a lot of the official narrative on this one. I know, shocking. And the reason I have a hard time with the official narrative for a lot of this is just because the official narrative refutes literally thousands of eyewitness reports. People on the ground, like average folks like you and I, that saw something mysterious. They didn't know what it was. And, instead of panicking or anything, they reached out, tried to get information, tried to get help. And, well, they were either ignored, ridiculed, mocked. In one particular case, the local government flat out made an astonishingly bad show of the whole thing, and then mysteriously the governor actually saw what happened, actually saw this, and, well, kind of was freaked out about it. Well, he didn't want to talk about it. It was years before the actual governor, the mayor, I think it was the mayor at the time, he was the governor, later would come forward on it. Which is really shocking, to be honest with you. Okay. Miss K. Griff says, I like learning about things I haven't heard before. Oh, I need something really good to bring up my ultra-conservative grandparents' house for Thanksgiving. Oh, there you go. Okay, well, there you go. I mean, this will definitely do the trick. I feel like I saw a documentary or something similar about this. Yeah, the Phoenix Lights is pretty widely covered. And yeah, there's a part of a documentary that we are going to be watching. And it's definitely one that you might want to sit back and relax and see, because yeah, it's James Fox's I Know What I Saw, which I think at some point we were just going to have to do like Discord movie night, and we all just kind of hang out in Discord, watch some of these UFO documentaries, because I have a whole like list of them. And they're all on YouTube now, which is pretty amazing. So, all right, folks. Tonight we are going to get into it. Let me go ahead and throw the old banner down there, making sure that YouTube knows that we are using any clips and everything on here through fair use. But of course, Shade Chaser over on Rumble says, I'll be jumping off at the half-hour mark, but I catch you on the replay again. Always happy to have you there, Shade Chaser. And say, please definitely feel free. Hit that thumbs up there on the Rumbles. Always happy to have you around. And feel free, do whatever you got to do. We appreciate you. And you have a great rest of your day. And take care, bud. All right. So, here we go. So let's start with kind of, I guess you could say, the where everything began. But let's go to a bit more of the more recent past. Let's go to only 7 months ago. Yep, that's right. 7 months ago, on March 13th, 2013, March 13th, 2023, it was like Fox 10 in Phoenix ran a story about the mystery of the Phoenix Lights. And let's go ahead and drop that up there. So yeah, 26 years later, and they still have no answer as to what this was, to be completely honest with you.
Today marks 26 years since the mysterious Phoenix Lights appeared over the valley.
And we still don't know what it was, but there are plenty of theories out there. It was the evening of March 13th, 1997. People across Arizona, especially here in the valley, reported seeing a silent, miles-long V-shaped group of lights gliding quietly overhead. Was it a military mission, a prank perhaps, or visitors from outer space? The questions and confusion over the sighting have only grown during the prevailing years.
Now, of course, we're much more open to it recently as being real, and the Phoenix Lights is one of the premier mass sightings that they're looking at as being authentic, because thousands of people saw these massive craft or objects hover right over them, glide right over them, rooftop level. Some people said they could have thrown a stone at it. It was that close.
I'm going with space aliens. I just wonder why they haven't come back. They must not have liked what they saw.
They didn't like what they saw, yeah. They left.
All right, Harkins, Theater in Scottsdale hosted a community forum on the Phoenix Lights today. It aired a documentary on this exact sighting.
All right. So yeah, 26 years ago, and they still have no answers. So what happened? Well, let's go ahead and go to our good friends over at the Infographics Show and see what they have to say, because the Infographics Show does an amazing job putting some of these together, and then we will kind of do a bit more of a long form discussion about it. So let me go ahead and adjust the tracking speed there, update, grab the proper audio. There we go. And here we go.
It was seen by thousands of eyewitnesses, including the legendary Snake Plissken himself, but the Air Force says they were all wrong. Is it possible that thousands of eyewitnesses across the entire state of Arizona all misidentified a flight of A-10s in the world's largest UFO sighting in history? The incident was first reported at 7:55 p.m. Pacific time in Henderson, Nevada, just across the border from Arizona. A witness there spotted what appeared to be a large, dark V-shaped object traveling southeast overhead. The object was low enough in the sky that the witness reported not hearing the sound of jet engines as would be expected. This flying anomaly had 6 large lights along its leading edge, and it was estimated as being as large as a Boeing 747. Instead of jet engines, though, he heard a sound described as rushing wind. Next, a police officer in Paulden, Arizona, spotted a cluster of 5 reddish-orangish lights as he was leaving his home. The police officer reported the lights appearing as if 4 were flying together, with a 5th trailing behind the formation. However, unlike the witness across the border in Nevada, the police officer reported that each light was in fact 2 separate but close-together sources of orange light. Returning home, he grabbed a pair of binoculars and observed the lights continuing south for about 2 minutes until they were out of sight. From his vantage point, he reported hearing no sounds from the lights. This would be the straw that broke the camel's back, as shortly after UFO reporting centers across the country, as well as local police departments and even Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, were flooded with telephone calls from eyewitnesses. It seemed everybody north of Phoenix was watching the lights slowly drift by overhead. Witnesses were reporting different things, however, with some reporting the same type and style of lights as the first 2 witnesses, and others reporting less or even more than the 5 or 6 lights originally observed. The colors ranged from white to orange or reddish, and while many reported the lights to be slowly gliding overhead, some said that they witnessed them speeding by quickly. Others said they observed the lights come to a complete stop overhead. The most commonly reported sighting, however, was of a large wedge-shaped craft of some kind with lights lining its ventral surface. 3 different groups of witnesses just north of Phoenix all reported the exact same object, remarking that it had made no noise as it seemed to glide by overhead. Adjusting its...
All right, so that does need to be mentioned there. So what we're looking at here is this alleged V-shaped craft with this alignment of lights. That is what has been reported. So 6 lights and sometimes 5. It kind of varied at times, which is par for the course with a lot of a lot of these sightings, which is kind of interesting. Yep, looks like a big boomerang. Yep. Well, when they say big boomerang, yeah, some measurements, like some eyewitnesses kind of like used different landmarks and everything, and based on their size estimates, a consistent figure gets thrown around that this thing may have been as much as 1 mile to 1.5 miles wide, which is insanely huge. Yikes. And it just floated right over the city of Phoenix, Arizona.
However, was of a large wedge-shaped craft of some kind with lights lining its ventral surface. 3 different groups of witnesses just north of Phoenix all reported the exact same object, remarking that it had made no noise as it seemed to glide by overhead, adjusting its course to fly between 2 mountain peaks. It was low enough, though, that for all 3 groups it blocked out a significant amount of the sky overhead as it passed by, indicating it was an object of massive proportions. The next witnesses were a mother and her 4 daughters inside a northern Phoenix suburb who observed a wedge-shaped object approach from over the mountains. It stopped directly overhead for an estimated 5 minutes as they stared in wonder, remarking that it was big enough to cover between 30 or 40 degrees of the sky overhead. They also said that there appeared to be some sort of barely recognizable features along the underside of the object, but due to it being nighttime, they couldn't make them out. The trailing edge of the object also seemed to be glowing slightly, according to them. Like other witnesses, they described a row of lights on the leading edge of the craft, 7, according to them. Suddenly, the object began moving south, firing what they described as a white beam at the ground. Simultaneously, the lights along the edge of the craft seemed to dim and disappear. Then the mystery object resumed its course south towards Sky Harbor International Airport. On approach to the airport, it was witnessed by a civilian pilot who called in 6 bright lights hanging stationary near the airport. Air traffic control radioed back that they had nothing on their radar scopes, and the pilot resumed landing as normal. That pilot was actually film star Kurt Russell, who was flying to Phoenix on a private aircraft to take his son to see his girlfriend.
Yeah, that is a wild part of the story. Yeah, the civilian pilot who actually saw this craft, saw this thing in the sky, was none other than Kurt Russell. And yeah, we actually happen to have Kurt Russell's interview with Jimmy Kimmel. Hey, what's going on there, Christian Fortunato? Hey, how you doing? And yeah, so again, like I said, Kurt Russell was the eyewitness who spotted this thing. We're going to actually take a quick pause on this video and go over here.
There's a story that, another story involving you and your son that I want to ask you about because I don't know the details on this story, but you guys saw a UFO. True?
Oh, you're talking about, yeah. Yeah, it is
In
true.
a plane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Goldie had an experience. She wrote about it in her book. But anyway, so she's not just a firm believer. She had an experience. So one time, Oliver, I was flying. It was in a time where I was kind of like I just a couple of years earlier learned to fly. So I was still in a period in my life where any excuse to fly would do. He wanted to go to Phoenix to see a friend, and I said, sure, I'll fly there.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we flew to.
My dad wouldn't drive me to the mall, by the way. Maybe bowling. That was it.
Okay, you almost had me there.
We're going into Phoenix, and I think it was Sky Harbor, and there's these bank of lights, 6 lights, in the shape of a triangle going back, right over the airport. And I'm looking at them as I'm coming in. I'm, on the horn talking to them, and I'm coming in, and I'm not saying anything about it because I'm kind of confused by it, but I can't tell if this is going to be an issue or not with landing. And Oliver said, hey, Pa, what are those lights? And I said, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they are. And so anyway, I called up the tower and I said, "What are you guys painting tonight over the airport?" And they said, "We're not showing anything. What are you seeing?" I said, "Well, there's 6 lights in a row." And they said, "Do you want to report this?" And I said, "Look, I can't identify it. It's flying and it's 6 objects. So that's what it is, right?" So we landed. I dropped him off, flew home. Years later, I come home and Goldie's watching this show on UFOs. And the most reported one of all time was this one in Phoenix. And I start to see this show and I said, "Wait a minute. That's the night Ollie and I were landing in Phoenix. I remember that." And I said, "Wait a minute, I've got it in my logbook." So I went to my logbook and I didn't mention anything about the reporting the UFO, but my flight was logged. So I said, "Yeah," and on the show they talked about 20,000 people reporting it and only one general aviation pilot. And I said, that's me. Right? So the weirdest part of that to me, though, was I'd never thought about it from the time I landed until I saw that TV show. And when I saw Oliver the next day, he hadn't either.
Really?
I thought that was kind of bizarre.
That's when you know you have an interesting life, when you go like, "Yeah, UFO."
It was
Yep. And that is Kurt Russell's UFO story. I know, wild to think about. All right, picking up where we left off.
Russell would later retell the story, saying that he had no idea until 2 years later when his partner Goldie Hawn was watching a show on UFOs and it mentioned a civilian pilot who had been the first to spot the lights in Phoenix itself. According to Russell, the lights hung stationary in the sky, and though he and his son thought it was odd, neither paid much attention to it. However, at the airport, 2 air traffic controllers and multiple pilots would also see the lights. But here's where things get murky. Witnesses in Scottsdale, Glendale, and Gilbert all reported seeing a similar large object, as described previously, continued an apparent southern route through the state of Arizona. One of the witnesses south of Phoenix was a former airline pilot with over 13,000 hours of flight time, who spotted the object making an abrupt turn as it approached his position. According to him and other eyewitnesses, the lights were bright at a distance, but seemed to dim significantly as the object approached, perhaps explaining the various numbers and colors of lights reported throughout the 2 or 3 hour event. A large object continued south and over the mountains until it was spotted again along Interstate 10 near Casa Grande. A family of 5 driving north to Phoenix said the object was so large that when they looked out of their car windows, one wingtip was clearly visible out of one side of the car and the other out the other side. The object passed by overhead as they were driving north at about 80 miles per hour, and they claimed the object was so massive that they remained under it for about a full minute as it moved south. If their speed was correct, then the object was roughly an impressive 1.3 miles long, or even bigger as it was moving south as they moved north. However, without a speed estimate for the object itself, it's impossible to know, but that size is still significant. And all throughout the Phoenix area, the one massive object seemed to be trailing a flurry of other unidentified aerial phenomenon. For hours after the main object had passed over the state, witnesses reported seeing clusters of lights and other random flying craft. One group of witnesses reported a large disk streaking west over Phoenix at extreme speeds. Many others reported orange fireballs which hovered in the sky. The entire case's most intriguing witness might have been a young man claiming to be a U.S. Air Force airman. According to him, he was stationed at Luke Air Force Base west of Phoenix. He called a National UFO Reporting Center at 3:20 a.m. and reported that 2 F-15 fighters had been scrambled by the base to intercept one of the unidentified flying objects that seemed to linger behind. Investigators would dive into his report, but were unable to verify the presence of F-15s in Luke Air Force Base at the time. However, he provided a great deal of very detailed information regarding the alleged intercept, which would later be verified by other witnesses over the coming weeks and months as investigators made the round across the Phoenix Basin. Unfortunately, the airman would call in 2 days after his phone call to report that he had been informed he was being immediately transferred to a new assignment in frozen Greenland. That witness has never been heard from again, and investigators have been unable to track him down. What the incident is best remembered for, however, is a long string of lights observed by thousands directly over the city of Phoenix. The lights hung stationary before slowly disappearing, and they are what the entire incident is best known for. However, they're also the weakest part of the entire case. When first contacted, the Luke Air Force Base Public Affairs Office claimed that there was no aircraft in the sky at the time of the incident. Later, however, they said that there was actually a flight of A-10 aircraft training at the time, and their training included dropping flares. The slowly falling flares dangle from parachutes as they disappear behind the mountains and would have given the appearance of dimming out. Many found this explanation troubling, and there are problems on both ends of the explanation. However, all can agree that this doesn't explain the massive craft spotted by hundreds, if not thousands of witnesses across the state. One witness claims that he observed the alleged massive craft with a telescope and found it to be nothing more than a group of aircraft flying closely together. This goes in line with the official Air Force explanation that said at the time that they were undertaking Operation Snowbird, a training exercise with the Air National Guard that involved flights of A-10s working together. The first incident of a large flying triangle or wedge-shaped craft was at 8 p.m. local time, and it was due to 5 A-10s. The flight was using steady formation lights rather than the typical blinking collision lights because FAA rules on the matter don't apply to military aircraft. The formation of A-10s flew over Phoenix to Tucson and landed at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base at 8:45 p.m. The stationary lights filmed and photographed by many hovering over Phoenix were explained as a different flight of A-10s dropping illumination flares. Due to the heat of the flares working on the parachute and creating a hot air balloon-like effect, the flare's rate of descent was dramatically slower than might be expected, given the appearance of the lights either gaining altitude or hovering still in midair. 10 years after the incident, Lieutenant Colonel Ed Jones, a Maryland Air National Guard pilot, confirmed that he was one of the pilots in the 4-ship formation that had dropped the mistaken flares. Immediately after the incident, as calls for investigation reached state government, Arizona Governor and former U.S. Air Force pilot Fife Symington held what would become the most infamous press conference in UFO history. In the press conference, Governor Symington displayed his chief of staff in handcuffs and dressed like an alien, claiming that everybody was entirely too serious about the whole incident. However, people did not find this funny at all, and the stunt provoked thousands of angry phone calls and letters. Even more shockingly, 10 years after that press conference, the former governor admitted in an interview that he himself had seen the craft spotted by the thousands. According to former Governor Symington, the craft he witnessed along with another family was bigger than an aircraft carrier and had the same recessed lights reported by others. It glided by on a southerly course, completely silent as it passed overhead. He chose, however, not to talk about it, likely because given his role as the state governor, he didn't want to create panic, but even more likely because of the culture of ridicule that persists to this day regarding UFOs. The official Air Force investigation does explain part of the phenomenon. It's very likely that the lights witnessed hovering stationarily over Phoenix were in fact nothing more than the flares dropped by A-10s. The astronomer who explained the moving formation of lights as aircraft flying closely together also is probably correct, as he likely observed A-10s flying together with solid formation lights on rather than traditional blinking collision warning lights. However, nobody has yet to satisfactorily explain the single massive craft reported by thousands of witnesses, including the governor of Arizona himself. While skeptics have explained this away as aircraft flying in formation, many of these witnesses, again including the governor, who is a trained Air Force pilot, specifically saw a single solid object and were close enough to remark that it made little to no noise as it passed overhead. A-10s are notoriously loud aircraft. A member of the infographic show team told us, as he was once within very close proximity of a 2-ship formation, dropping cluster munitions and making gun runs on targets. Skeptics have so far only been able to point at the flight of A-10s observed by some witnesses as explanation for the single large craft, but this completely ignores the thousands of eyewitnesses ranging from Nevada to New Mexico who spotted the craft for themselves. The skeptical explanation seems to rely on observations of the A-10s to explain this craft away, but ignores the possibility that both a flight of A-10s and a single large craft could have been flying over Arizona at the same time. It's also incredibly intellectually dishonest to simply disregard the testimony of thousands of eyewitnesses, including some extremely high-profile witnesses like the state's own governor. A skeptical explanation thus rests on the only possibility being that every single witness to the large craft is either incompetent, a liar, or crazy. However, the skeptical explanation makes one further major error. First, it takes the word of a single astronomer who said he observed multiple aircraft flying in close formation with his telescope, and yet it completely ignores the thousands of witnesses to the single solid craft. The astronomer didn't take a photo of the formation of the aircraft with his telescope. He has no proof that he actually made the observation, but skeptics accept his account without questioning it, while ignoring the tidal wave of countering accounts, because this is a conclusion the skeptic likes. This isn't skepticism, this is intellectual dishonesty for the sake of preserving one's own naturalistic worldview. True skepticism would accept that while some accounts were no doubt mistaking the flight of A-10s as one object, other accounts are much more difficult to explain and are worthy of their own investigation, like those accounts who were close enough to visually confirm the single object, and were well outside of the known flight path of the A-10s in question. What's a fact is that this isn't the only such sighting, as massive UFOs have been commonly reported around the world. During the Cold War, Soviet citizens reported massive UFOs overhead on numerous occasions. During the Belgium UFO flap, hundreds of witnesses spotted massive craft overhead in the sky, prompting fears of a Russian attack. And the sightings continue to this day, with mysterious lights appearing over San Diego and prompting what many would end up calling the Phoenix Lights 2.0. Now it's time to prepare for the end and watch how to defend Earth against an alien invasion, or click this other video instead. It was seen by thousands.
There we go. So that is the brief version of the brief version of the Phoenix Lights incident from infographics show. All right. Hey, what's going on, Rose? It says, Kaiser, so many people are live right now. I'm getting lost trying to hopscotch. I know there's so many people live, and it's I really, it's a tough time right now. Prime time is always a hard time for me to stream, but hey, we're gonna go for it anyway. I say 9 of my own plus my own live plus multiples others. It's wild, not even a full moon. Yikes. Hey, what's going on, Short Order Cook? How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. It's that the Maya trial verdict's coming in and all. Are they still going on with that? Is that still happening right now? I'll be darned. They are still going over on. Oh yeah. Oh wow. They are still going. Good grief. I say, hey, I mean, I'm definitely glad for Maya Kowalski and her family because I mean they definitely deserve a massive win against Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital for what they did to them and what happened to their mother because of it. Frankly, I don't think that all the money in the world could bring back their mom, but I mean, in lieu of the obvious, and hopefully, if anything, this helps to make sure this incident never happens again to anyone else. So that's all I'm going to say about that trial. But yeah, I think it's definitely I think it's a good call, a good verdict that they got there. I think it's definitely good. Court is done, but I think people are still streaming stuff. Yeah, I did see. Yeah, one. They needed up with almost 300 million, I think. Yeah, I think somewhere close to 300 million. It's wild. Oh, and appeals are already being written. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100% appeals are being written right now. Johns Hopkins just lost a massive amount of face. All right. Back to the aliens. Nanu. All right. So now we get to one of the most interesting parts about the Phoenix Lights incident. So we have a bunch of footage. So we have a bunch of actual like eyewitness footage. And we also have some eyewitnesses reports. And we also have the former Arizona governor, Governor Fife, on his witnessing of the Phoenix Lights. So let's get into it. We're going to go ahead and jump with a quick bit from James Fox's I Know What I Saw documentary. I'll be completely honest. I was looking for a lot of more documentation on this one. Documentation, at least from what I could find on the internet, was really difficult to come across. I would love to be able to do like a more of a live read with like a lot of like the more serious documentation, eyewitness reports and everything, but unfortunately with the time allocated, I was not able to find a whole lot on this one. But I mean, it's a well-known incident. All right. So we're going to go ahead and play a little bit of this here. There we go.
I jumped out of the way. I said, oh my God, this plane's going to crash.
This thing came right across, north to south.
Incidentally, I was a private pilot, so I have some familiarity with the airspace.
It glided over my house, and there was absolutely no noise.
What I thought to be a kind of a boomerang shape.
Oh my God, that's a wingspan. I've never seen anything like that.
They were reported by at least one commercial airline pilot.
It was humongous, that's all I can say.
It passed right in front of us, just about right above eye's length.
Yeah, look at this. This is really cool. Some of what they're showing right here.
Right above eye's length.
Okay, there you can start to see it. You have definitely the wing, the V shape. This was video taken several years before this incident. But yeah, you can see the definite V formation. pretty wild.
No, I don't hear anything. What in the hell is that?
It's wide. I came out second after Monica, and I remember looking at it. It was coming over the mountain, and it was like almost as wide as one of the humps, and it was very low.
It's coming across the sky, and as it's moving, it's blocking and unblocking the stars. There is actually a shape.
It was more like a boomerang than a straight V, and then the lights were spaced pretty evenly.
It was actually 5 lights that were a V, 1 in front and 2 on each side, and it was perfect. It was a perfect triangle.
If you can imagine something the size of Camelback Mountain floating down Scottsdale Road, you have some idea of the intensity of this thing.
The object.
You have a craft the size of a mountain floating down the road. I'm sorry, but look at this guy right here. Especially look at his hat. You tell me if this guy looks like he's the kind of person who indulges in nonsense. I don't think so.
Road, you have some idea of the intensity of this thing.
The object we saw, if we opened up a newspaper, you could not block out the object that we saw.
People say, Mike, now you saw a B-2 bomber. My response was, we could land all 40 of our B-2 bombers on the wing of that craft.
You know, it's one of the biggest things I've ever seen that moved like that. I mean, it was just enormous.
It happened last night, and eyewitnesses who saw it say it's like nothing they've ever seen before.
I don't know if it was as big as an aircraft carrier. It might have been. Because I've never seen an aircraft carrier fly.
It barely missed that mountain.
Really?
Yeah, came floating over the mountain.
So had you not looked up, you wouldn't have known it was
No,
there.
my daughter, it was 8:30 at night. My daughter was coming over here, and she ran in and said, Mom, you have got to see this. So we all...
There was such an uproar about what people described seeing that we also did a story about it back in 1997.
The first report of a strange flying object came at about 8:20 that night from a former police officer in Paulden, Arizona. Over the next 40 minutes, people gave similar reports of an object along a 200-mile route south to Phoenix and Tucson.
It was...
So this thing covered a very long route. So from Phoenix to Tucson, like they said, that's like almost 200 miles. All right. And to kind of give you a little bit of, topographical information here. So here is a quick little summary of places where the Phoenix lights were sighted. So here we go. We have an interactive map here. And okay, making sure you can see what I'm doing. There you go. Okay. So zooming in here. All right. So we have a site is exciting number 1 here at Henderson at 7:55 Mountain Standard Time and near Las Vegas. And then this thing is flying. Note the line, and then you have all these all these sightings around it. So sighting 2 happened near Kingman, Arizona. Sighting 3 was in Paulden, Arizona at 9:15 p.m. So from Henderson at 7:55 to Paulden at 9:15. Okay, let's do a little bit of math here. Because Paulden, Arizona to Henderson, Nevada. Okay. So you taking Interstate 40 that looks like that would take you about 4 hours, like 3 hours, 10 minutes. It's a distance of 213 miles, according to Google Maps. So 200 miles, this thing covered that distance. Let's see, from 7:55 p.m. to 9:15 p.m. That's a total of 1 hour and 20 minutes. So 1 hour and 20 minutes, that breaks down to 80 minutes. Okay, speed 212 miles in 80 minutes. I'm trying to do some calculation here. All right, so 1 hour, 20 minutes, distance of 212 miles. That means that this thing is traveling at an average speed of 159 miles per hour or 255.89 kilometers per hour. So real quick, just to flash this up on the screen there so you can see what I'm saying. The average speed calculator, 212 miles at 80 minutes, which is 1 hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, 159 miles an hour or 255.89 kilometers per hour. Now, with typical conventional aircraft, that is definitely doable. But the problem is that conventional aircraft are not over a mile wide. And then, of course, we have sightings in Prescott at 8:17 Mountain Standard Time. We have another sighting here in Dewey. And as we get closer to Phoenix, it looks like it arrives just north of Phoenix at right around, let's see, that's 2030. So that's about 10:30 Mountain Standard Time. So about 10:30 at night is whenever it seems to arrive near the outside of Phoenix. And then you have multiple sightings in Phoenix. You have right there in Glendale, in Passageway Peak, and you have Kurt Russell's report here near Phoenix Sky Harbor. That's documented. And this thing continued on. It was started here near Henderson, flew all the way down through here, and apparently continued on, and then suddenly somewhere over this stretch, just outside of Phoenix, it just disappeared. This craft that apparently measured over a mile in size. Yeah. Traveled all this way, generating thousands of eyewitness reports. And yet, it begs a lot of questions there. Murph Turf says, didn't realize it was that big. That's what she said. Couldn't help myself. Yeah. But really, I didn't know it was that big. Yeah. This thing is massive. It really blows the mind to think of it as how big it was. Giggity.
It's gunmetal black. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't invisible. It was more of a dull bluish black color.
And we both just stayed there and looked at it for a couple minutes, and it was completely silent.
When you look down the street on a hot day in Phoenix, above the street's it's really wavy, and you see everything kind of distorted, and that's what it looked like up inside the middle of the craft.
It was just gliding, and then it stopped, and then it the sides retracted a little, and then it was gone.
Just went.
Acceleration to deceleration, it was no noise the whole time.
And not a sound.
Explanations have been tossed about that there were flares, that there were planes flying in formation. But Mark and Robin, we checked with the FAA today, we checked with Sky Harbor, and we checked with Luke Air Force Base, and there's been no official explanation of those strange bright lights last night.
Okay, that's another thing that the people here mentioned. They were sitting there just watching this thing. It's apparently changed shape slightly, and suddenly, without a sound, it accelerated instantaneously and then gone. Okay, I'm sorry, but that is really freaking weird. Again, it's one of those common tropes, those things that you see with every single one of these UFO cases. Whenever this thing leaves the area, it's there. It's 1 second, it's there, and then it instantaneously accelerates, and it's just gone. Just disappears. That is a common thread with all of the actual credible UFO sightings I've ever seen. Pretty wild there. Shorter Cook says, I think it's one of ours. I think they were testing the stealth technology flying over an illuminated small city. Why use your own electricity when you can use someone else's? Didn't work too good. Holographic or stealth, and stealth tech, I think we have this technology, but it's of extraterrestrial design. Yeah, you know, it wouldn't be surprising to me at all. I mean, if some of the recent developments that we're finding out about from David Grush and getting information from within sources in the government are telling us, allegedly, a lot of defense contractors within the government, you know, possibly even like, you know, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, all these other, you know, companies possess entire craft and are trying to reverse engineer them right now. Government defense contractors are working on these things. If they've been working on these things since like what, the 40s, 50s, it's entirely possible that these things could, I mean, we might have something with these at this point. Do we have, I mean, now if I've heard, I mean, Bob Lazar has talked about these types of craft before, and he's like, as far as he's concerned, the material science is so far ahead of us that there's no way that we can reverse engineer it, like probably within the next 100 years. He said it's just that advanced. But who knows? Maybe there have been some major breakthroughs since his time at LaSalle, or his time at you know, Area S4. Almost said Los Alamos, but that was his first job. And say they also have all of Tesla's papers. Yeah, mysteriously, yeah, they have Tesla's papers, and Tesla, all of his original documentation, all of his plans and stuff are mysteriously missing and held by the government. That's another story for another day.
Well, I'm going to order a full, investigation of this through DPS. We're going to make all the necessary inquiries, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to find out if it was a UFO.
I'm Patty Kirkpatrick. Remember those mysterious lights in the sky? Well, the governor says there are new leads in the case. Good evening, Arizona. Governor is holding a news conference on the lights in the sky.
This absolutely burns my ass. Watch this shit. This is the press conference that this governor held. Watch what he does.
Over Phoenix in March. Let's listen in.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. And don't get him too close to me, please.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
I think what really irritated me was the joke the governor.
That is some bullshit. That is straight up bullshit. Yeah. So just so inappropriate. Yeah, WTF. This was very tone deaf. Not a good look. This will never be unseen. I have to laugh. I can't believe they did this. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we thought the Mexican alien bodies were bad. Yeah. Yeah, it was, that was bad. That was rough.
Pulled with the Martian. You know, I just didn't have time for that kind of stuff.
He was just dismissing everything that these people had seen and said, just like we're all Looney Tunes.
And I know what I saw, and that's not what you're telling me what I saw. I didn't see flares. I didn't see A-10 Warthog. So how about we work together and try to figure out what this thing is?
All right. Had to drop that there because I wanted to make sure that I do give credit to James Fox and his team for what they did on this, what they were able to find. Yeah, that was some bullshit. But seriously, if you have not had a chance and you really have and you want to, and I may do a Discord movie night. We might watch it one time, but yeah, definitely if you get the opportunity, it is on YouTube. Go over and watch James Fox's full documentary, I Know What I Saw. And yeah, definitely leave a like on that because, you know, James Fox is doing tremendously good work with, you know, investigating this topic. Just last year, he put out a long awaited video where he did a full investigation in Brazil on the Varginha UFO crash, which is an upcoming episode of Edge Reality. Yeah, to be completely honest, that one, yeah. Please definitely go ahead and watch the full video, watch the full documentary, give James Fox a thumbs up for that one, because he definitely deserves it for the great work that he's done. All right. So now we're going to go to a quick video on the fallout from Governor Fife Symington and what bullshit he pulled during that horrible press conference, that horribly tone-deaf press conference.
March 13th, 1997. This event called Lights Over Phoenix. What did you see?
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. That was, you know, it was just breathtaking.
Right there. Right out the gate, 18 seconds into the interview, and he admits that he saw it. The same guy who orchestrated that press conference where he trotted out a guy in an alien suit and made fun of everybody that had seen something in the skies that night, he admits in 18 seconds into his interview that he saw it.
Fuck.
I'm just saying, that is a colossal douche move.
And I'm not sure about the date. You've got a better memory
March
for the dates
13th.
than I do. Yeah.
But there was no Like the Clinton day? No.
No. No. I was on
Agreed,
a
Murph.
diet. No, I'm serious. I'm serious now. That it was unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
He admits it. No, this is straight up a UFO.
Doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying. So it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget, I snuck out to see it, without DPS, which I'm not supposed to be driving my own car and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, but I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "she looked like a ghost. What did you see?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I saw, but it was really something, and I'm not going to talk about it." And
wow.
So,
did it frighten you?
No, I think I was kind of in awe, really,
How big?
Bigger than anything I've ever seen in the sky.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky?
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. And it was hard to define because of the light in terms of the size, but it was absolutely silent and had sort of eerie embedded lights, and so that's what I saw. And I wasn't expecting to see anything because I was looking out over at Luke to the west, and then all of a sudden these people in the park area just on the west side of 51, there were a bunch of people there. Everybody said, "Oh, look at that." And we turned around, and this thing was coming from the northwest, traveling to the southeast.
We now know, and it really hit me when we were watching the Diamondbacks in Game 7, and the B-1 flew over.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Rose says, this is a good one. I think it's the same one I saw. Rose, you are going to have to tell me all about that. I might have to hear about this one. I am intrigued.
Over.
It wasn't a B-1 bomber.
But that thing all of a sudden out of nowhere appears. And I said to somebody that night, I said, well, when they do test these, they test them in populated areas. They're new stuff. They test it to see if people detect it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe it was ours? Do you believe it was something from the U.S. government?
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Flying around.
Nah, it wasn't even close to a B. It was much bigger than a B-1. A B-1 actually isn't that big. Right. I mean, if it's at low altitude, it'll appear big, but no, this was totally different.
Something, though, that you think our own government may have been kind of running by a populated area to see what would happen?
Well, they certainly achieved their goal of stirring the pot, if that's what they were doing. But I don't think so. I think this was technologically far advanced. I use the analogy. Can you imagine if you took Christopher Columbus and put him in the cockpit of a Boeing 777? What his reaction would be? He wouldn't understand it. He would be convinced that this is something from another world,
Is that what?
And I think I really believe that. I believe that. But I've always been open to that. We're not alone in the universe.
I agree with you.
We're going to find that out one way or the other. Even Bill Clinton was talking about
he's
that
open to it, but yet he mocked everybody.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I do believe that we're not alone. I just don't know that we've been visited. But you think maybe that night we were?
I think so, yeah. There have been so many different sort of sightings and inexplicable phenomena that, but the disparity in terms of technological progress would be so vast that we would be, I think, of sort of no consequence to whoever is visiting us, because the technology to get here would be just beyond anything we could imagine.
Did it hover?
No, it was just going in a straight line.
Slow pace?
Yeah, slow pace, yeah. And then, there were all the sightings.
Flares.
There were the sightings of the America West plane coming into Sky Harbor, said he could have landed on it.
It was enormous.
Yeah.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky? Is that about as close as
I think that's a fair description,
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Maybe it's our next generation we're working on. Who knows?
Well, we'll find out it someday.
Wonder who provided the costume and paid him. Yeah. Definitely a good question there. So all this to just say, let's go ahead and let's actually look at some of the footage, like what was actually captured that night. Oops, wrong button.
Popping over to your left. There's one behind the chimney.
Look at that.
I got 4 of them. Major sighting here.
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. That was, it was just breathtaking.
No, I'm off.
Let me see. I could print.
Maybe you could zero it in on there.
Fireball.
2 of them side by side.
Yeah, it does look that's like why it's so yellow when there's the 2 of them make it.
This is the location. This is Steve right here. He's the one who kind of got it. There's Rhonda, Pool, Puppy. Let's go back to the saucer.
I don't know if I'm tall enough.
You want to lower it?
Have to remember this was VHS technology at the time.
I got another spotting scope somewhere here if somebody wants to look through that. There's 2 side by side. This is slightly different.
There's another one. Oh, look. 1, 2. There's another
Wait,
one.
where?
There's another one, too.
Where?
Oh, look at that. There's another one.
No, we're just excited. We're not.
They keep coming.
Wait, I see. Whoa, look at them.
I got that one on video.
There's 4 of them. Look at, there's 3 of them all together.
I got the 3rd one popping in.
Over to your left. There's one behind the chimney. One just flared up.
I got 4 of them. Major sighting here.
No, there's 5.
Oh!
Another one just showed up. They're multiplying.
Whoa!
Maybe somebody's setting up lights.
You see that?
No, those are in the sky.
There's one underneath the house, too.
There's one behind the chimney.
Look
We
it, come
need to go to
over here.
paper.
I can't see how this works. How does this
Holy
work?
Oh, you got it too
shit.
hot. Have you seen that before?
No.
That's weird.
They're lined up in a pattern, man. There's geometry behind this.
I can't even get this. I've never seen it. Look at that.
Man, this is...
What is this?
Let's see. Oh, there's 3 of them all lined up.
No,
4,
there's
Bill.
one
Bill,
over
Bill,
here.
over here, there's
Over
4.
Look.
Yeah, I see. Over the top right now.
Yep, there you go. Well-trained geese wearing glow sticks. Well, the official report says that these were flares dropped by A-10s, part of Operation Snowbird, except there were no military except there was no military jets supposedly in the sky at that time, and nobody heard a sound. And anybody that has ever actually seen or heard an A-10 knows that an A-10 is not a quiet aircraft. Yeah. For those who don't know what an A-10 looks and sounds like, yeah, here's an idea.
Right here, Jim. Right. Oh, yeah. That's.
You can hear that way off in the distance. Hey, what's going on, Moni G?
That's a big freaking airplane. Look at how hard he can turn there.
You coming back down?
Yeah.
Jeez. This is cool.
Yeah, very loud. Listen to how much noise these things are putting out. Accelerating. He's going to give him a show. Okay. So I have a question. If they're claiming that this was a flight of A-10s that were dropping flares, why did we not hear any A-10s? Oh, hey, what's going on, y'all? It looks like we're getting a raid from MLS. Awesome. Thank you all so much for dropping by. Very cool. So that was what a standard A-10 flyby would sound like. And again, we're supposed to believe that that was what was going on here. Instead, we get total silence.
I don't
and
know,
we
but
have
I got it on tape.
these lights just appearing in the sky.
What does it look like, Bill?
What do they look like in your camera?
They look like...
Yeah. I went to the danger zone.
Like a sphere before?
Yeah, they're spears now.
Are they complete circles or
Yeah, they just transformed into circles right now, right as you were talking. Now they're
Hey, Wendy,
now
good
they're
to
not
have you
spears.
there. Awesome.
Well, see, the way we saw them.
Hey, Stephen Greer missed out, didn't he, Bill?
Yep, you can even hear the crickets, but no plane.
Nope. This isn't first for me.
Anything like it?
I have similar video of this from other people.
See, that one's
You
drifting.
just see little orange things. That's the way we were seeing them. When you see them, they're big and they're moving.
Welcome, Ziggy Oliver.
You see an eye? Like a
Yep, that is.
No.
Moni G, since you are just now joining us, let me go ahead and get you up to speed on this. So the Phoenix lights, March 13th, 1997, apparently these lights, 6 lights, appeared in the sky over Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, what's going on? Excited? How you doing? And apparently there was a craft that looked like they were that the lights were emanating from. And by a number of eyewitnesses reported seeing a structure above the lights themselves that looked like a V-shaped craft that, according to every eyewitness account, had to be absolutely massive. And based on a lot of the eyewitnesses, estimating that this thing could have been as big as 1.5 miles wide or more. 1.5 miles wide or more, moving silently southwest or moving silently southeast over the skies of Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah. Did you say 94? This was March 13th, 1997. If I said 94, I apologize. This thing is massive, and this is actual eyewitness footage.
Out of focus here. We got major hockey puck activity.
And you'll kind of notice that over time here, the lights themselves will start to kind of wink out.
I think the one on the left may split in half. It's
drifting down. It seemed like the one on the right split.
how many is there? I got 4.
And that one just disappeared.
Behind a tree. I got 3 lined up. Oh no, I forgot to hit the record button.
It's huge.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. The one on the right's blinking. No, that's because it's going behind a tree now. They're definitely moving.
Wait, where'd the other one go?
No, one is went behind a tree or something. The one on the right will be gone in a minute as soon as it goes behind something.
Yeah, for the 1997 like VHS camcorder, yeah, the audio is pretty good.
Yeah, let's go in a minute here.
Moni G says, I think I saw something way out
2.
over Lake
But we're
Huron
down to
shining
1.
a light down, but I can't imagine anything that big. Yeah.
It's winking out or something.
unbelievably huge.
Yeah. But there was no, like the Clinton day, no.
No. No, I was on a strict diet. No, I'm serious. I'm serious now.
And this guy is the former governor of Arizona, who was an eyewitness to the event. The former governor, well, at the time he was the governor of Arizona, saw this thing at the time and estimated that it was bigger than an aircraft carrier flying over a mountain.
That it was unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
Right. Doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying, so it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget. I snuck out to see it, without DPS, which I'm not supposed to be driving my own car and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, but I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently just, normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "you look like a ghost. What did you see?"
Yep,
I said,
close to the mountains.
I don't know what I
At
saw,
one point,
but
apparently
it's
passing over
certainly
mountains.
and I'm not going to talk about it. And
wow.
so,
Did it frighten you?
No, I think I was kind of in awe, really,
How big?
Bigger than anything I've ever seen in the sky.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And it was hard to define because of the light in terms of the size, but it was absolutely silent and had sort of eerie embedded lights, and so.
Now you can kind of start to see here with this, there's a darker part there. You can start to see the superstructure of something that is attached to these lights. That's pretty wild.
So that's what I saw, and I wasn't expecting to see anything because I was looking out over at Luke to the west, and then all of a sudden these people in the park area just on the west side of 51, there were a bunch of people there. Everybody said, "Oh, look at that!" And we turned around, and this thing was coming from the northwest, traveling to the southeast.
We now know, and it really hit me when we were watching the Diamondbacks in Game 7, and the B-1 flew over.
Mm-hmm.
Over the Bob.
It wasn't a B-1 bomber.
Again, just look at that. You can see there's a structure there. Yeah, you can see that this is a solid object with these lights hanging down. This is not flares dropped by an A-10 Warthog, which was what was reported by the Air Force, was that it was just flares dropped from A-10s. And yet, there was, again, not military, yeah. Now, according to the military, they say, well, this is just flares dropped from, A-10s that were doing maneuvers as part of Operation Snowbird, which was a military exercise. Well, that's the official story. The thing is, the radar data shows that there were no military flights in the sky that night. A civilian pilot, which actually happened to be legendary actor Kurt Russell, believe it or not, saw these things. Several commercial pilots saw these things, but there was verification that there were no military flights in the sky at that time. Yeah. And we're supposed to believe that the very loud A-10 Warthogs, like a flight of like 5 or 6 A-10 Warthogs, which are very loud planes, somehow managed to fly by, drop flares, and not make a single sound. And that, the flares probably just drifted for a long time. That's why it looked like they were passing by, because there's supposed to be flares on parachutes. It doesn't hold water. There's no way that that happens.
Moni G says, not flying, it's hovering. It's actually, believe it or not, according to what we have been able to find, what information we've got, this thing never stopped moving. It was moving at a slow pace, but it was moving over Phoenix the entire time. So if it looks like it's hovering, it's actually just going really slow and probably close to the same direction where they're at. Yeah, same story, different decade, pretty specialized flares. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't a B-1 bomber.
But that thing all of a sudden out of nowhere appears. And, I said to somebody that night, I said, well, you know, when they do test these, they test them in populated areas. They're new stuff. They test it to see if people detect it. Do you believe it was ours? Do you believe it was something from the U.S. government that they were kind of flying around?
No, it wasn't even close to a B. It was much bigger than a B-1. A B-1 actually isn't that big. I mean,
right.
I mean, if it's at low altitude, it'll appear big, but no, this was totally different.
Something, though, that you think our own government may have been kind of running by a populated area to see what would happen?
Well, they certainly achieved their goal of stirring the pot, if that's what they were doing. But I don't think so. I think this was technologically far advanced. I use the
wholeheartedly, yes.
Imagine if you took Christopher Columbus and put him in the cockpit of a Boeing 777, what his reaction would be. He wouldn't understand it. He would be convinced that this is something from another world, you know.
Is that what?
And I think I really believe that. I believe that. But I've always been open to that. You know, we're not alone in the universe.
I agree with you.
We're going to find that. We're going to find that out one way or the other. Even Bill Clinton was talking about that the other day on the national news.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I do believe that we're not alone. I just don't know that we've been visited. But you think maybe that night we were?
I think so, yeah. There have been so many different sort of sightings and inexplicable phenomena that, you know, but the disparity in terms of technological progress would be so vast that we would be, I think, of sort of no consequence to whoever is visiting us, because the technology to get here would be just beyond anything we could imagine.
Did it hover?
No, it was just going in a straight line.
Slow pace?
Yeah, slow pace, yeah. And then, you know, there were all the sightings.
Flares.
There were the sightings of the America West plane coming into Sky Harbor, said he could have landed on it.
It was enormous.
Yeah.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky. Is that about as close as
I think that's a fair description.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
Maybe it's...
This took place in Arizona. An unidentified pilot, according to the press cuttings, flying near an airport in Arizona with his son when he spotted 6 lights in the night sky. So he called from the airplane to air traffic control to say, I'm seeing these lights here. I wasn't expecting any other planes. They're none supposed to be on my landing path. Can you tell me what's going on? They said there are no other planes. He said, I'm seeing 6 bright lights coming towards me. Mystery unresolved.
Except, tail number for that plane was Bonanza 2 Tango Sierra, and I was the pilot. No way. Oliver and I.
So Jess, take us back. Doesn't say that in the briefing.
Oliver and I.
I should have read to the end.
Oliver and I were flying in. I was flying him to go see his girlfriend, and we were on approach, and I saw 6 lights over the airport in absolute uniform in a V shape, and Oliver said to me, I was just looking at him, and I was coming in. We're maybe a half a mile out, and Oliver said, "Pa."
Yeah. Mind blown. Yeah, Kurt Russell was the pilot of a Beechcraft Bonanza, a single-engine civilian aircraft. Yeah, tail number November 2 Tango Sierra. And he was the pilot who reported this to air traffic control as he was approaching Phoenix Sky Harbor on March 13th, 1997.
What are those lights? And I then it kind of like came out of my reverie, and I said, I don't know what they are. I said, he said, are we okay here? And I said, yeah, I'm gonna call in, and I reported it. And they said, we're not painting anything. We don't show anything. I said, well, okay, I'm going to declare it's unidentified, it's flying, and it's 6 objects. We landed. I taxied, dropped him off, took off, went back to L.A. Never said a word. He never said a word.
Can you describe to us what?
All right, so real quick there, Wendy Marino, can we capture and reverse engineer? I think we're doing it now, saying for a friend. Wendy, I wholeheartedly hope that this stream will get you to subscribe and join in the fun, because usually on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern is whenever I do this show. Now, I had to pivot last night, so we didn't do this show last night. We ended up because there was so much news entertainment going on in the entertainment, which is my other thing that I do. I ended up doing that one. But yes, let me just be honest. If you want to go back through my catalog of the Edge of Reality episodes, I mean, this is the 24th episode, so you've got plenty to go back through. I've been covering the UFO phenomenon and a lot of other unexplained events on my channel. UFOs are kind of where my bread and butter is, and I could talk for hours on what we have, what we don't have, and what we believe that is the capabilities on these things. But honestly, I will be completely honest with you. If some of the eyewitness information and some of the actual people involved in this whole thing that I've had the privilege of getting information from are actually truthful, the United States has at least 9, maybe even more, probably even over a dozen of these craft in our inventory between the United States government and our own defense contractors, and they are in the process of reverse engineering them. And David Grush, the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency analyst, who basically went to the Inspector General this year and said, hey, we've got these special access programs within our own government, and I'm supposed to be checking them for oversight, and they're not letting me in. He reported it to Congress, and it led to a historic live coverage that I covered live on this channel of the UAP hearings back in July, where he talked about what we have. And if David Grush's testimony is to be believed, not only do we have foreign materials, we have reverse engineering, we have foreign material programs, we have whole craft, and we have biologics, non-human entities that came with the craft we recovered. If you want to know more, I highly recommend that you go check out that link that Ms. K. Griff was so awesome to go ahead and drop there into the chat with my playlist of all the previous episodes of The Edge of Reality. I hope I've earned your subscription, because this is a good show and we have a lot of fun. Usually on Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, it's going to be fun as hell. Yeah, get the government out of it. I was like, we will not get the info. Well, stay tuned to the end of tonight's show, because I've got a major update in the David Grush ongoing situation, and basically some amazing news with regard to what we are looking at as far as the possibility of disclosure. I'm saying it could happen in our lifetime, and I've got updates. Yep, David Grush. I've got information. I've got updates on him. We got a major update this week, but we'll talk about that in a little bit later.
What you saw that day?
Yeah, we were all outside. Someone actually came and got me because I was still inside. And there were maybe a half a dozen, to my recollection, lights that just hung in the air, didn't move. They definitely were not airplanes. And it just baffled all of us. And they hung on there for several minutes. Like I said, these people saw them when I was in the house. They came and got me, and I still stared outside what I believe would be over 10 minutes.
How big were they?
Well, they were quite in the distance from where I was at, and they appeared pretty large. But it's really hard for me to give a measurement, whether it was the size of a football field or 2 football fields. because they were so far off in the distance, but they were very large. I couldn't quite describe the shape because all you saw were the big bright lights in the sky.
When it finally got here and we realized this thing was coming right over us, we really started getting antsy, and then when it went directly overhead without a sound, it was like that. It was so big.
You couldn't even hear the wind. It was so quiet. It just didn't even do anything. It just came through.
It was a giant V, all right? And the right side of the V went over us. The left side was like a couple blocks over it.
You just didn't know what to do. You know, it was just like, my God, how big is this thing? It didn't seem threatening because when it was right overhead and we couldn't hear a sound, it was like you're just awestruck.
He said if he had a tennis ball, he could have hit it. He could have thrown a tennis ball at it. It was that close.
It was very close. It just could have nailed it.
Last light went right over my wife and I, and there was no light on the ground. But I could see up inside that it was almost like a recess, and it had fluorescent like light inside, like a gas light of some kind.
You could see right through the middle of it, but it was like looking through two-way glass, like through a mirage that you see on the highway or something, or just when it's real hot. Right there, you can see through, but there was no light coming back or anything like that. It was just really weird.
As it went over, it went straight like through this V right there, over that guy's
very
house.
90s.
It took about 15 minutes to get from when we first saw it all the way till we couldn't saw it.
We just re-experience it every time we tell it. You know, it's like it was just yesterday. You know, we've just never seen anything like it.
I was always
can I just say that this guy looks like discount Antonio Banderas? Just saying.
Very polite skeptic. I would never tell someone, if they told me they saw something, I would never say, you're a liar or anything like that, because I don't know. But now I don't know what to think, because this is impossible.
We all looked up at the same time and saw this amazing, huge, dark, silent object that appeared to just be right over our heads.
It was awesome. I mean, we were telling ourselves not to blink.
It was very close to the ground. It was just like floating over the housetops.
The whole object from front to back, from side to side, it was so big.
I would gauge this object to be several football fields. I mean, like a mile, maybe more than a mile, maybe even 2 miles. It was huge.
The lights did not move relative to each other. Had they been in a formation of separate aircraft, there would have been a slight relative movement, I would have perceived, and they stayed pretty much just locked in position.
In it, and it stayed right on it. And what was extraordinary is that light went off and it came on again over a 20-minute period, and it did not move from that position because it stayed fixed in the scope. I have to tell you, I was really deeply impressed by the display that unfolded. As Jim came up to join me, we really were now together to witness a grand display of several orbs that were variously in a straight line, as if you could draw a ruler or lay a ruler end to end, lights going on and off in the same positions, and then ending up in a triangle as if to communicate a simple geometric based message.
And from her description of what happened, they did seem to move as a unit, and they were able to stop and hover.
Not only was it a very significant mass sighting,
that was a
many
pretty epic
investigators
stash.
call it the largest sighting ever, lasting the longest amount of time, seen by the largest number of people. Grand scale. But at another level, global media.
When I had the experience of seeing some lights out in the distance, the first thing I did as a, I guess, inborn skeptic myself was just try to run through every possible solution that it could be. I ran my differential diagnosis of anything it could be. And what I realized pretty quickly was nothing fit. Nothing that I could possibly run through. It definitely wasn't
there are
flare.
literally
It wasn't
thousands of
streetlights. It wasn't
witnesses.
something on the mountain. It wasn't anything.
Thousands.
Illumination flare, which would provide light for people on the ground to see what the enemy might be doing.
I do work with flare on a daily basis. They weren't flares. I knew they weren't conventional aircraft. Flares emit smoke, and the illumination from the flare would illuminate the smoke as well, so you would have a trail from the flare leading up.
These lights up here represent aircraft flares. If you notice, they are not in any straight line. They vary in distance between each other, and if you look at the top, you can see the smoke. As the flare falls, it leaves a trail of smoke above it from the burning magnesium in the flare.
Flares are moving relative to each.
Yeah, see, and that's exactly another thing with that they're talking about with the flares there, is that the flares, yeah, as it shows, they leave a trail of burning magnesium behind them, so they have smoke. These don't have smoke. And this is actually very similar to another very interesting incident that we covered on this channel a while back. An incident from 2021, only 2 years ago. A similar V-shaped craft of immense proportions spotted over a Marine Corps training base, 29 Palms in California. And it was witnessed by over 50 eyewitnesses, all of them Marine Corps trainees. They all have it on video. It's widely disseminated, and we actually now have verification that Blackhawks and a ground team were dispatched to where this thing allegedly disappeared over a mountain range at the 29 Palms incident in 2021. Yeah. So definitely go check that one, out. On a mountain range. It disappeared behind a mountain range whenever it was flying by. And they dispatched out a ground team of Hummers and ground vehicles, as well as they scrambled Blackhawks to go after it. But for 25 minutes, this thing was spotted as like this incident at 29 Palms. This craft was seen.
As the flare falls, it leaves a trail of smoke above it from the burning magnesium in the flare.
Flares are moving relative to each other. They're moving at different speeds. The Phoenix lights are rock steady.
When in between these lights, though, it did seem somewhat denser. It seemed darker, like there was a shape or form going on there that was holding these things together.
It was like looking through water. And if you've ever seen that little wavy motion and so forth, that's what that's like.
It was an orangish amber light. And it was so rich and lustrous, it's almost as if the objects seemed to be comprised of the light itself, which is strange. But imagine if you could, that light would have material property, the physical property. It was almost as if the orb was crafted out of light. They are absolutely perfect in every aspect of every geometrical aspect that could be observed. They were perfectly uniformly round. They were perfectly uniformly equidistant.
Video doesn't do it justice. In real life, they're huge. They're amber. There's no flaring. They're like a ball. On the video, they flicker, they're white, they're much smaller. But nonetheless, the formations themselves are compelling.
When it got directly over my head, and I mean, I'm talking dead center here, I was right underneath this thing. And I look up. It was like there was no filament in this thing. They appear to be in a canister. There was light swimming around in this shape or form.
We could not see the whole object from front to back, from side to side. It was so big.
I would gauge this object to be several football fields. I mean, like a mile, maybe more than a mile, maybe even 2 miles. It was huge.
And it just kept going over our heads and going and going and going. And it seemed like we could actually just reach up and touch it.
Absolutely
It was so
amazing.
And I realized it was a manifestation that there was intelligence trying to let us know we're here. Now, let's look at this.
I was on the Phoenix City Council. I had no idea anything unusual had taken place until I met a reporter who asked me what had happened and if anybody was investigating. I was on my way into a televised Phoenix City Council meeting, and I told her I would ask about it.
Nobody is doing any investigation on it, and I'd just like to know if anybody has any information from the city and if the city is checking into it. Apparently.
When I asked my fellow council members if anything was being done to investigate the matter, all I got was silence. It was as if I hadn't asked the question at all. They just ignored me and moved on to the next councilman.
People are starting to ask more questions. Thanks. Thank you. Councilman Siebert.
I was just going to give them.
But this was obviously different, that there were hundreds of witnesses and no call for action. I was stunned. Up until then, Senator McCain and I had a pretty good relationship, but I think his people got a little upset when I kept pushing for action. This whole thing has been a government cover-up, I know firsthand. When I asked the city council for help, I was laughed at. The governor, he made a joke of everything.
Yeah,
and
this
Senator McCain gave
interview
me the
just
cold shoulder when
really
I asked him to
irritated the
action.
crap out of me. We'll go back
A
and
few
we'll,
weeks after the
we'll
Phoenix
review
Lights
that.
incident, a man named Richard Curtis called me at home to say that he had taken some amazing footage on professional equipment of this object, capturing actual structure. I asked Mr. Curtis to send a copy to me at my office so I could look at it. I planned to send it to Village Lab so that they could analyze it. Two men dressed in black suits, hats, and sunglasses came to Richard Curtis's door and asked him for the videotape. According to Mr. Curtis and two other witnesses, the men took the tape, got into a black sedan with dark tinted windows, and left.
We're going to have to wake up. We're going to have to become knowledgeable. We're going to have to develop new science because we still don't know all the answers to the questions: who are we, how do we get here, where are we going, and our relationship to the cosmos. We're having trouble with our relationship with each other. We still use violence to settle conflict. And if we're to have a sustainable civilization, those behaviors must go away. And they're not going to go away until we change and find peace within ourselves.
So, something that got mentioned here, I did want to make a note of. Moni G says, that is so weird. Why wouldn't they address it in the meeting? Well, you have to remember, this is the 90s. And from 1969, really, or actually probably I would say probably the middle 50s. Yeah, from about 1952 all the way until 2017, there was kind of essentially, if you want to call it anything, kind of call it a cult of silence around the topic of UFOs and UAPs. Now, the reason for that is that in 1952, there was a massive UFO sighting that happened over 2 weeks in Washington, D.C., over 2 Saturdays. And what happened was that multiple craft were spotted flying over multiple craft were spotted flying over Washington, D.C. in 1952. We scrambled fighters to give chase. They looked for it. I did do a whole episode on this. It was tracked on radar from 3 separate airfields in the area. And what ended up happening was that there were so many eyewitnesses calling in to police. Police were referring that to the military. Military was getting that. It crashed the teletypes in Washington, D.C. And after that, they realized we have a serious strategic weakness because, the Soviets, which we were in the middle of the Cold War at the time, the Soviets could just basically overwhelm our system with a bunch of junk phone calls and crash our teletypes, and we would have no way of communicating with an early warning system. And then suddenly, boom, they can get a foothold in combat. That would have been a major problem. Again, that was 1952, the height of the Cold War. Well, guess what? It never materialized, but that was enough to kind of create a need for people to go ahead and keep quiet on this whole situation. Now, with that being said, I do want to make note there that in December 16th, 2017 was the day that the whole paradigm changed. The United States government, the Pentagon, had to admit, they were forced to admit that yes, UFOs, UAPs are real. We don't know what they are, but they are flying through our airspace with impunity. And this was published on the front page of the New York Times in 2017. Yeah, called Glowing Auras and Black Money. And, oh, come on. So here is the article. Yeah, Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's mysterious UFO program. December 16th, 2017. This is when everything changed. And this is when the famous, the videos from the Pentagon were dropped that really busted this whole case wide open and has led to everything that we have seen so far. So yeah, everything that happened is a direct result of all of this. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you get a chance, definitely go back, read this full article from 2017. This was the start of the new UFO paradigm. And it has been a wild ride. All right. Anyway. So that is kind of what happened to kind of get us there. And that's why, I mean, now, back then, of course, there was this secrecy. So they didn't actually want to go ahead and talk about it. That's why it was basically hushed under the rug. Nobody talked about it, because talking about UFOs back then could pretty much land you, it was basically career suicide. It was what it is. Yeah. And Murph's Turf dropping 5 gifted Kaiser Pineapple memberships to the Pineapple crew. Thank you so much there, Murph. And looks like those were picked up by Digger 420, Valhalla Waits, American Steve, Excited Utterance, Jamie. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Say definitely drop Murph a thank you. Murph is a fantastic and great fan and supporter of the show. Yeah, but there were still so many people who saw it. Yeah. And I know. It's only now that these stories are really starting to get their due, and it is about damn time. Dictionary Diva, good to see you. Only Art Bell was brave enough to host guests and discuss it in the 90s. Yes. Art Bell, and if you have the opportunity, go back and listen to some of the old episodes of Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Fantastic interviewer. Truly one of the greatest, I would say the greatest interviewer, of all time. Yes, Art Bell is amazing. Yep, we the people can handle the truth. I agree. Yep. Let's see. Hey, what's going on, Traveling Fools? Good to see ya. Digger 420. Hey, Digger. Kaiser came in for quick to hit the like button, and I saw my gift. Awesome. Fantastic. Yes, Art Bell is my hero. Good to hear you, Traveling Fools. Fantastic. All right. So, that is kind of where we've hit on so far. So, again, the one prevailing theory about this, the one that they contend is the cause of all this, is Operation Snowbird. Ooh, I've got a copy of The Quickening by Art. One day I hope to discuss it with a panel. Awesome. Would love to hear that one. That would be amazing. Love to get in on that. So allegedly, according to the United States government, Operation Snowbird, this actually comes directly from the Department of Defense's website. Operation Snowbird, U.S. Force Tech Sergeant Johnson Wagner, foreground and air and first class. Okay, well, what is this? So they're locking Hydra 70 rockets with M257 illuminating flares into a rocket launcher and F-16 Fighting Falcon. So allegedly, they're saying that Operation Snowbird was this way to essentially use flares. Hey, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As far as the government's concerned, anyway. That's what the government blamed for the way that these things have apparently hung out in the sky. Now, we also know, based on the footage that we just saw, that that's a bunch of bupkis. But, you know, that's the official explanation from the government. All right. No, I said F-16. It was an F-16C Fighting Falcon. Okay. All right. So now that so that is the Phoenix Lights in a nutshell. And I promised you guys a quick update on the situation within Congress, what is going on with the David Grush situation. And I am happy to report that we do have some information there. Fantastic. So let me go ahead and pull up the article. Okay. Got that one. And all right. I think maybe that's all the ones that I had there. Okay. Okay. And let me grab this here from Representative Tim Burchett. I know he recently did an update on this. Okay. I have to go back and find the one for Tim Burchett, but I do know that he did make a mention of this one. All right, Ms. K. Griff, have a great night. All right, here we go. So let me go ahead and just pull this up here. Present, share screen. All right, this one, courtesy of UAP News. So David Grush clearance amendment has made it to into the Financial Services Appropriations Bill, HR 466-4. So here is Representative Eric Burleson of Missouri introducing the amendment to allow UFO whistleblower David Grush to renew his security clearance. And we'll just go ahead and listen to the whole thing.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 27, printed in Part B of House Report number 118-269, offered by Mr. Burleson.
Hey, Jude. Good to see you.
Pursuant to House Resolution 847, the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Burleson, and a member opposed will each control 5 minutes. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Missouri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of this amendment, which would increase/decrease funding to express that the Office of Personnel Management should renew the security clearance of David Grush. See, Mr. Grush formerly served as the Reconnaissance Office representative to the UAP Task Force from 2019 to 2021. He recently testified before Congress claiming that partial fragments and even intact vehicles have been found for decades by the federal government, our allies, and defense contractors. According to Mr. Grush, objects and vehicles retrieved are of, quote, exotic origin based on the vehicle's morphologies and material science testing and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. Mr. Grush also told us that the U.S. is in possession of non-human spacecraft and dead pilots. And finally, Mr. Grush told us that he has spoken with the intelligence officials whom the U.S. military had briefed on, quote, football field-size aircrafts, that the U.S. government transferred some crashed UAPs to a defense contractor, and that the intelligence officials were also briefed on malevolent activity from extraterrestrial beings. Now, of course, all of this is very interesting to me and a number of my colleagues on the Oversight Committee. And my first question, when I had an opportunity for Mr. Grush, was to say that those are pretty incredible claims. But I'm from the show me state. You're going to have to show me. And I requested specifics, information, which could not be conveyed in that hearing, not in a secure setting. And unfortunately, he's unable to provide us with any supporting evidence to back up his claims because his security clearance has lapsed. Now, my understanding is that Mr. Grush did go through the proper channels here by turning over classified information to the IC Inspector General. And he ultimately filed a complaint to the IC Inspector General alleging that the
Yes,
information
Wendy,
that
as
he
in
presented
vehicles,
to
spacecrafts.
the IC has
Yeah.
been illegally withheld from Congress. So I'd like to know
Yep.
more about these claims, and so would a number of my colleagues on both sides of the aisles. I'm certainly pleased that the Oversight Committee is working hard to bring the relevant Inspector General so we can cut through all of the roadblocks and that have been presented since Mr. Grush stepped forward. But we need to cover all possible angles here, and if we can get Mr. Grush in a skiff with an active security clearance, that would go a long way. This amendment simply expresses the support for the Office of Personnel Management to renew the security clearance of David Grush so that he can show us his work. Now, I'm a freshman member. I've seen a lot of these increasing, decreasing amendments, and while on its face they appear to not do anything, but it's my understanding that the agencies generally pay attention to the legislative history and intent, which is why I'm offering this amendment. And I reserve my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman seek time in opposition. Gentleman does not seek time in opposition. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Gentleman yields. Questions on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Missouri. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.
And so that's it.
Chair understands that amendment number 20.
So that means that now David Grush, his security clearance renewal is going to be a part of the appropriations bill for the upcoming year of 2024. So that is huge news, which means that they can get him into a SCIF, which is a secure classified intelligence format or forum, which is basically a shipping container with a whole lot of specialized noise canceling, deadening, and a whole lot of other cool stuff in it to basically help prevent anybody from listening in on what's going on. It's a perfect place for all kinds of very, very specialized things to be talked about in a classified setting that they can't talk about anywhere else. And if if his security clearance is reinstated per this amendment, then that means that everything that he will be able to go forward, give testimony before members of Congress, members of the Inspector General, and have his full security clearance, so he can directly show them exactly what he's been working on, tell them where we have the craft, because he allegedly knows where the craft are, where the biologics that came with the craft are being stored, and also what and who and has what and basically has been doing what with these, because that was his job as part of the NRO. It was to know this, the NRO and the NGA. That was his job, was overseeing these special access programs, and he got shut out of it. So he's launched an inquiry with the Inspector General. He's going through the proper whistleblower procedure. He is doing everything correctly by the book, the way it's supposed to be done. So, look, I know everybody wants him to just come out and spill the beans, but he's doing things the right way so that he doesn't go to jail and doesn't dismiss everything that he's already said. Okay. Moni G says, The Edge Reality is a cool name for the show, Kaiser. Thank you. And Wendy Marino says, give me the deets. I want to know. Okay, well, for that, you'll probably have to go back through some of my back catalog, but let me just put it to you this way. if any of what we have been able to hear and what has been disseminated in the last few years is true, these things are capable of astounding feats that we just flat out do not have the ability to do. So highly recommend, again, go back, watch some of my other videos, so that way I can kind of like, and I go into depth. I break down the gimbal, go fast, and the Tic Tac UFO videos. These were shot by F-18s during combat operations off the United States coastline during patrols. The 2004 Nimitz incident off the coast of Ensenada, California was one. There was another from, two more from 2015, the gimbal and the go fast. The go fast, they've tried to debunk that one, but there's some issues with their apparent attempt to debunk it. But then there's also the gimbal, which, as far as I'm concerned, the gimbal is the most startling footage ever shown of a UFO, UAP encounter in the world. It's unfriggin' believable. Hell with it. We're just going to go ahead and show it. Gimbal UFO. All right. This is the unedited gimbal footage. This is the real deal. And I'll go ahead and turn on captions. Share this tab. So you're going to notice a few things, and I will explain it best that I can to try and help kind of, for you to understand. The place where I got the information, I can tell you all this, like what this information, all this data means, is I got this directly from the testimony of another F-18 pilot who was able to tell me exactly what all this data means. All right, so you can notice here that the aircraft, this is like the orientation of the aircraft. They're in a slight bank. They've got this object here. It has been bracketed by their radar, so it is being tracked by their radar. They're flying in a circle around the target, basically keeping an outward, look inward. They've got a camera that's on a 360-degree rotation that can actually keep a solid track on this object without having to change the orientation of the craft. So it's going to look like it's sitting perfectly still. It's going to look like all this down here is moving because those are clouds. This is at 25,010 feet, and they are currently in just standard, this is basically a TV mode. This is exactly what they can see with their own naked eye right now. And they are moving at about, I think it says 238 knots right now is their current airspeed. So yeah, that is what we're looking at right now. Okay, I think this is, yeah, RTCL, yeah, real TV. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. All right.
Dude, there's a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
They just switched to IR.
Dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like look at that thing. It's rotating.
All right, we need to go back. Now, again, I want you to listen to the commentary from the two pilots.
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro.
They think they're looking at a drone. They're like, I don't know what this thing is, but it looks like a drone.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
Here's the biggest point of contention. He's saying that there's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA, which the ASA stands for is like Aircraft Situal Awareness Page. Yeah, so it's a special screen separate from this main screen that essentially allows them to see all the radar contacts in their area, so they can see kind of a God's eye view of everything that's in their airspace. Now, the radar tape. Now that this video has been declassified by the Pentagon of the gimbal. This video has been declassified. The radar tape that actually shows all this information is still classified. Just want to make sure you know that. And it has officially been classified at a point where it is literally not able to be gotten with a FOIA request. Not even remotely. Traveling Fool says, only in 2023 can this be announced and hearings held, and it's not even the top 10 weird stuff in the news cycle. I know. Hey, what's going on, MLS? How you doing, bud? All right, so continuing on.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
Okay, again, need to pay attention to that. This is an object. Again, they're moving around the craft. The craft is not moving. It's just sitting there. They are moving around it. It is sitting at 25,010 feet. It is sitting perfectly stationary in a 120 knot crosswind. I'd like to repeat that. This object is sitting stationary at 25,000 feet in a 120 knot crosswind blowing from the west, and it is not moving in the slightest. Now, some background information. Ryan Graves, the actual pilot that was able to get this footage, advised everybody that, yeah, here's the situation with this footage. The radar operators, because this was off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida in 2015. This was picked up on radar, and this object loitered in this spot for almost 11 hours. And they were able to scramble jets up to go look at it and find out what it was doing there. And it just sat there. And there's a part of it, and this is only 34 seconds of the tape. This is the unedited version of what was released by the Pentagon. The other half of this video is still classified, and we cannot get our hands on it. But allegedly, Ryan Graves claims that this thing suddenly took off. It instantly accelerated. It was here, and then it was gone. Here's the fun part. Again, notice this is all in infrared. This object is colder than the air around it at 25,000 feet. And it's emanating some kind of almost like aura around it that is only being picked up on thermal. It's not being picked up on visual spectrum. And watch the craft as it starts to rotate.
Well, if there's look at that thing.
Rotating.
It's rotating.
So this thing just basically went from this to sitting on its side. Yeah, 120 knots. It's almost 140 miles an hour. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, 120 knot winds is almost 140 miles an hour wind. That's a lot of wind. And this thing's just sitting there like it's nothing. Here's the fun part. Back in 1989, a former engineer by the name of Robert Lazar, or Bob Lazar, came forward saying that he had been working at Area S4, which is part of the greater Area 51 complex, claiming that he had been working on reverse engineering these types of craft for the United States government. His claim is that they work off of basically a gravity propulsion system that just encases the craft in a bubble, for lack of a better term, of its own gravity that allows it to completely defy the laws of physics. And he said that the gravity amplifiers on the craft that he directly worked on and he worked with, the gravity amplifiers, there are 3 of them on the bottom of the craft. And the way that the craft flies is that it doesn't fly like linearly. It rotates onto its side, aiming the belly of the craft where the gravity amplifiers are, aiming the gravity amplifiers on the belly of the craft at its destination, and then taking off that way. Yeah. And we just literally watched this craft, as it's sitting there, suddenly just go whoop, just the way Bob Lazar said it did in 1989. This was in 2015. Yeah. And allegedly, according to Ryan Graves, not long after this, that's where the video, which is at where the video is cut off at. This thing just suddenly, after it rotates up on its side, it just goes and it's gone. Instantaneous acceleration. Instantaneous acceleration. Which, with the type of speeds that you're talking about, another famous encounter, 2004 off the Nimitz with David Fravor and his F-18 squadron. 4 eyewitnesses, 2 pilots, 2 backseaters, all saw this thing and they got it on video. Yeah, David Fravor's testimony was that he tried to nose onto this thing and try to catch up to it. And this thing, in this tic-tac shaped object, instantaneously went from there and it was gone. Instantaneously gone. The way David Fravor explained it, he said, the fastest aircraft that we have in our inventory is the SR-71, which can go about Mach 3, which is 2,210 knots. Well over 2,500 miles an hour. At that speed, let's just say, if an aircraft could instantaneously accelerate to that speed, it would kill the pilot instantly. This thing is allegedly faster because the SR-71, even flying at full Mach 3, full afterburner, everything, they would still have been able to watch disappear across the horizon for another 30 to 35 seconds. This thing was gone in an instant. Nothing we have, nothing anybody has, can go that fast. Yes, Fravor is low-key a badass. Yep, mind blown. Movies and conspiracies, you might be my new BFF, lol. Well, hey, I'm always happy to have everybody come on in and join in because we have a lot of fun here. Moni G says Jacksonville has weird goings on there. Portals and such, even stranger than your usual Florida strange stuff. Trust me, I've seen a lot of things coming up. So that is the current update with regard to the most recent update on David Grush's situation. And we also do have Tim Burchett. He went on Weaponized with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp this week to talk about this recent information. There may be a new hearing coming up. DOD officials may testify at the next hearing. So this is big. We've got a lot more interesting stuff coming out. Playlist 2, Traveling Fools. I'm super geek. The Edge of Reality is every week. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and watch this real quick. Let's see what Tim Burchett has to say.
Speaker, if it's okay, if I can talk a little bit about him. We got a new speaker in the house, and it's funny. Luna, she's a bull in the china shop.
Representative
she's like, let's get him over here, Burchett.
Luna.
Call him over here. I said, hey, Mike, or Speaker Johnson, whatever. I said, Speaker, and he came over. We were working on something else, and he in fact said that we're going to pursue this thing. And whether it's in a select committee or not, I'm not too hung up on all that. because they'll lie to a select committee just like they'll lie to a full committee. So the more people we get in there, maybe is a better thing. Maybe the select committee is asking too much, but we can still do field hearings as well, which means, I mean, that's just off the chart. I mean, that's off the chain. You know, that's just me or Luna or Matt or Jared says, hey, let's do a field hearing, and we just call one, and we just show up and call people in and just let it go. And
So the new speaker has given you a thumbs up in pursuing the topic.
Oh, yes, sir. 100%. 100%. And it doesn't hurt that I was one of the 8 that voted to, extradite the last speaker. So that doesn't hurt one bit. And Matt as well. So we got I think we got a good base to work on. We're going to be in good shape there. But the next hearing, I hope we can it'll be a little more mundane. I mean, but I think it's important that we get some of these Department of Defense people in and start separating the wheat from the chaff. You know, we gotta make sure we get the let's start eliminating stuff that we don't need to keep talking about, and let's get some people on record, and I think that's going to be a good way to start, because you all, as you know, you were kind enough to brief me before the last one, and we were able to ask some really tough questions, good questions. And I think with this, if we can get 3 or 4 people in these departments and get them under oath talking, maybe we can get a little closer.
Fantastic. That is what we've got right now. He needs a wardrobe check. Yeah, Tim Burchett of Tennessee. Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee. He's well known for wearing his Carhartts over his suit that he wears in Congress. All right. Shorter Cook says, I hope they start to get the witnesses and experiencers in as well. Yes, that is a lot of what we're hearing right now, is that it looks like we're going to get a full committee or a select committee. I'm not sure, but things are moving forward. He was talking about field hearings. They can literally just show up wherever they allegedly might have this stuff, at an air base or whatnot. They can pull in whoever the hell they want to, and they would have to answer under oath what they have, what they don't have, what they're working on, and what is going on with regards to that. So, yeah, that is... He's Tennessee, y'all. I spot him like radar. Yeah. So yeah, that is the current situation with regard to that. All right. And definitely, folks, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and drop up there to our poll that I'm taking, looking at some options for what we are going to be watching for the next Edge of Reality show. So definitely get your votes in. We've got 4 options currently: Dyatlov Pass, Tunguska, government time travel experiments, and the missing 411 are definitely what we're going to be looking at for next week's, which will be Wednesday at 9 p.m. at Eastern time. So yeah, that was next week's show. Get your votes in. I'm going to close the poll out here probably in the next couple of minutes, but definitely want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get their vote in. And I'm Not Obama says, haven't tuned in for months, but I'm guessing you're ending now. We're winding down, but there still are a few juicy bits to come through, so hang tight there, buddy. All right. And Traveling Fool says, relatively new here, Moni G. I totally dig it. Awesome. Glad you enjoy. I try to do something interesting with this channel. I try to do something fun. I mean, look, I do cover the movies and entertainment news and all that, and I kind of keep tabs on what's going on in entertainment, because as far as I'm concerned, entertainment and, the culture is what's important, because, as the late, great Andrew Breitbart once said, politics is downstream from culture. So I want to know where the culture's at. With that, we can kind of start to figure out where the politics are at. I try to stay out of the political, stuff. I don't really get too involved with politics, but I do want to stay involved with the culture. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But the unexplained is definitely my secret passion, if you will. Traveling Fool says, I've done many conspiracy shows. Oh, very cool. Nice. Wendy says, first timer. Awesome. Well, glad to have you here. And Jude Curio says, the DOD is going to gaslight you. Yeah, well, I mean, they can certainly try. I mean, I do have friends that work in the DOD. I'm not going to, they obviously, for reasons, have not actually explained anything that they're working on, but I'll be completely honest. I don't want to know what they're working on, but I do have some folks that I do know up there. All right. I'm Not Obama says, Missing 411 is heavily covered by a bunch of channels. Not sure if that'll help or negatively affect you in the algorithm. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm kind of taking it as, whatever anybody wants to do. Definitely up for whatever. Traveling Fool says, love the ancient civilization stuff the best. Plan to have Jimmy Corsetti come on in the future. Oh, dude, I would love to be there to help, to be there with, if you get a chance to talk to Jimmy Corsetti. Would love to pick that guy's brain. I mean, holy crap. That would be amazing. Yeah, I've done a lot of just study and everything on, a lot of the work that's being done by Randall Carlson. And I mean, I'm big fan of Graham Hancock, as well as love to look in at Jimmy Corsetti's work and Robert Schoch's work on the Sphinx. So many folks. Yeah, I would just the whole ancient civilizations thing is just amazing to me. One of these days, the plan is to do a dive on the Richat structure in Africa. That is going to be really cool. Yes, Fingerprints of the Gods is glorious. If you have not read Fingerprints of the Gods, you need to. It's an amazing book by Graham Hancock. Go to Amazon, do yourself a favor right now. You can even do the audiobook. Yes, awesome. Thank you so much there, bud. All right. Yeah, the ancient civilization stuff is the only thing that I geek out more than the UFO thing on. And honestly, I honestly feel like the two are tied together. I really do. That's a topic for another day. Good is a good find out about Fort McClellan, Alabama. Toxic Forgotten Warriors. Yeah, DOD tells us everything. Yeah. Or Be Lazy, and the audiobook is on YouTube. Oh. Well, I guess I'll just have to drop a link for that there. If y'all haven't already done so, in addition to all of my usual methods of contact, like through through the usual stuff like Twitter and whatnot, I also have a Discord. And in my Discord, I have an entire section devoted to the unexplained, where folks can submit their own stories, for their own articles, anything that they like to go ahead and throw to me, so that way, I can research it. I have actually, you can ask Murph and Rose and a whole bunch of other folks that have watched the channel in the past, that I do check that. And not only that, but I have been known to grab information directly from the audience and drop it here into the chat. And actually, that came in real handy during our MH370 stream. So definitely go over. Here is my link tree. And definitely go over there. You can also get subscribed and join in my Discord. You can just, become a member of my Discord. You'll be get regular updates and notifications. You can be engaged with the rest of everybody over there on on the server. And most of my audience is already over there. So yeah, great time. And I will see about dropping a link there on the Discord. All right. Fan-friggin-tastic. All right. Just making a few notes while I got this there. All right. I got to catch up on chat there. The Outlaw Pass or whatever has to be, or has had recent updates regarding possible theories of the last couple of years. That might be interesting. Yes. Yeah, Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson are my guys. Good news. Graham is officially getting a season 2 of Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix. So if you have not had a chance to, or if you have, definitely go over and check out Ancient Apocalypse over on Netflix. It's a great show. I'm going to that pyramid they found in Indonesia soon. Gunung Padang. Oh my God, dude. That is so cool. Gunung Padang looks amazing. And Danny Hillman Naniwajaja's work on that with ground penetrating radar. Oh my God, I am so hyped to see what his research turns up there. But not Obama says, still trying to figure out how to vote on your poll decisions. All right, well, go ahead and pick something because I'm going to be closing the poll in about a minute. All right, there we go. Yep, and don't forget to hit those likes, folks. Yeah, it's probably the oldest pyramid in existence at Gunung Padang. I cannot wait to try and look at that. I mean, the columnar basalt that is made of seems freaking amazing. And it's actually mortared in place. That's the craziest part. And it was quarried from 50 miles away? Insane. All right, Moni G says, fantastic. Love all the things, ancient civilizations, aliens, the unexplained. Well, you have found yourself a channel to watch, because I do all of that and more. Yes, that's an amazing pyramid. Moni G says, traveling fools, that makes you the coolest for sure. I would agree. Audiobooks are amazing. They're so great to have. All right, folks, that is that. We are closing the poll. All right. So currently the poll is... Oh, man, dude, you have no idea how much I would love to go hiking up through there. Trust me, if I could convince the wife, I would go tomorrow. I don't care if I'm fat and out of shape. I would hike my happy ass up those mountains, and I would do it with a smile on my face. All right. Hope you is if you need a cook to go along, I could definitely do that. I do all the cooking in my house. All right. So with 40% of the vote, government time travel experiments is going to be next week's show. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about possibly some Project Montauk. That's going to be fun. And maybe even talking a little bit about the famous John Teeter mystery and the 2038 paradox. All right. Cheap trip to Indo. After we take you and the wife to Bali. Oh, man, would love to. You know, our 10-year anniversary is next year. I wonder if I might be able to convince her. Let's say she's more of a homebody than I am, but you know, I'm just saying. Yeah, don't forget the walking stick. And Shorter Cook says, gotta go. Thanks for the great show tonight, Kaiser. Looking forward to the next one. Bye, everyone. Good night, Shorter Cook. All right, folks, we're going to close out the show here tonight. Thank you all so much for coming on out, hanging with us all here. Oh, that is cool. Fantastic, man. So, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching the show tonight. We've got a lot more content coming down the pipe. Now, just so you know, I have videos that come out 5 days a week. I do have all my news and entertainment information that I put out there. And I do go ahead and do my live streams on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will be covering some cool stuff coming up, you know, really soon. So keep an eye out. I appreciate you all so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I have got all kinds of new content planned. We got an idea of what we're doing next week. And, well, I will see you on the next video. Peace. You ever wonder why we're here? You ever notice that the information that we're being fed doesn't always add up to the truth? Do you ever look out your window at night when the rain's falling down? You ever look down the street and wonder what is going on around you? You ever look out at night and ask yourself, is this all that I am? Where am I? What am I? Is this all there is? Is this real life? As technology continues to bring us closer together, it also tears us further apart. We watch the skies and look at the planet around us and its natural beauty as it continues to march forward on and on and on, unending, unceasing, unwavering. And yet our world, everything that we've built crumbles around us. We wonder, is this it? Is there more? There's gotta be. We can search. We want to learn. We want to understand. We want to see all that we can see, know all that we can know. We want to look out there. We want to peek behind the veil. We want to ask the questions that nobody will answer. We want to light those fires, the sparks that ignite a curiosity in us. And we ask ourselves, what is out beyond all of that? Beyond the edge of reality?